This past weekend, a lot of unrest and violence was anticipated in our city in the wake of a verdict announced in a case involving a police officer that had been very highly profiled here. The verdict was in favor of the officer, and many threats had been made that if this happened, significant disruption would occur. Because something similar had happened a couple years ago in our area, many agencies throughout the state shut down, as did nearly the entire downtown area where I work, and the State National Guard had been activated to be ready to come in, which they had to do a couple years ago, in anticipation of the problems. I'm very thankful that overall, peaceful demonstrations have overwhelmingly prevailed. The evening before the verdict was handed down, I mentioned the situation to one of the practitioners in this church for prayerful support, and to also address my own sense of frustration towards those seemingly intent on causing disruption. Of the many helpful things my practitioner shared, one of the instructions I was given more recently was to review the January 2016 edition of Love is the Liberator, the magazine this church prepares, and I thank those responsible for ensuring that copies of prior editions can always be accessed online through the church's website. This particular edition is on the importance of watching, which Mrs. Eddy admonished us to do, and in particular, the watches on man's true heritage, racial discrimination, as well as world safety, and the government and the whole world and universe being under God's power have been so helpful. In the watch pertaining to discrimination, a statement from Malachi is provided that reminds us, "Have we not all one Father? Hath not one God created us?" And the watch pertaining to the world and universe references Mrs. Eddy's reminder from Science and Health that love, the divine principle, is the father and mother of the universe, including man. And of course, she herself said that love is the liberator. While there have been some destructive protests and damage, I am thankful to say that those causing the disturbances have been in the overwhelming minority of people involved in the protests, and the degree of disturbance and violence anticipated has not manifested. The deployment of our National Guard has not been necessary either. I was also grateful to learn, and I don't know that it has been focused on in national reporting, that there have been many instances of people stepping up to encourage peace and order and safety. And in one example, after a late-night protest resulted in property damage to a popular downtown area, many of the protesters returned almost immediately when they heard about this in order to clean up the shops, help board up windows, paint windows with positive messages, and just support the area overall. While the demonstrations do remain ongoing, an overwhelming sense of order has been present. I've heard many people comment on their surprise that the disruption expected never occurred, and also heartened by the comments I've heard, including one I just heard earlier today from one of the security guards in our building, that he's been reading his Bible, and that all of this is just a reason to turn to God, because only He can rightly direct. I'm very grateful to the support of my practitioner through this situation, thankful to this church, and to our leader, Mrs. Eddy, for her sacrifices and willingness to be the messenger of this age and to provide us with Christian Science.